I just got back from Wonder Woman. It's late, so I'm not going to bother doing a full setup like I usually do. I will save that for my spoilers review, which I will do in a couple of days. Once the official release hits, I'm going to try my best to hold my tongue now and not spoil it for you, because I want you to enjoy it the way I did, not knowing the big things that go on in this movie. But as you could probably tell from just that, I am a huge fan, because I want to preface this review real quick. I am a huge fan of superheroes, specifically in terms of actual comic books. I love the DC stuff. Marvel stuff is great, but I don't think they come close to DC's writing. That said, I am not a fan of the DCEU. I do not particularly like Man of Steel. I did not like Batman v Superman, which it just blows my mind that Batman v Superman, which is probably one of my most anticipated movies of my life. Zack Snyder should have been able to take a nap behind the camera, and Batman fighting Superman in a movie should have still been entertaining. But I digress. That is another video. And then Suicide Squad, I thought, was a huge mess. So after 3 movies, my hope in Wonder Woman was not very high. I was still optimistic. I wanted it to be good. And outside of me, there is a ton of history behind this movie. We're talking the 70, 60 years of Wonder Woman, her not getting a movie until just now, and then you have the whole history of Patty Jenkins herself as a filmmaker who hasn't done a feature film since 2003 with Monster, which actually Charlize Theron won Best Actress for. If you haven't seen that movie, I highly recommend you check that out. It's based on a true story, serial killer. Great movie. And then we have the whole history, as you kind of got a little bit from me just a couple minutes ago, about the DCEU and how divisive those movies have been. And all of that comes together in this first live-action Wonder Woman movie. And I have to tell you, it all works out for the best. This movie is awesome. It's so metal. Okay, where to begin? First off, this movie is gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen, and that's not because, well, partially because, but it's not just because other people in it. I mean, you have Gal Gadot and Chris Pine, who are probably 2 of the most beautiful creatures to have ever graced this earth. But the visual effects, I mean, starting right off the bat with Paradise Island, or Themyscira, as it was later named. It's a gorgeous place, and I loved just looking at it, but that could probably be a whole movie on its own, or at least an art book. There's definitely got to be an art book for this somewhere. Sometimes the green screen, I was like, yeah, I can see that. But for the most part, this movie is gorgeous. The 3D, I think, is actually, I recommend checking this movie out in 3D. It's one of the few times I'm going to say that, because I usually am not a huge fan of 3D. But if you can check it out in 3D, I suggest paying the extra. And then you have the costume and the set design is breathtaking. I thought the period piece aspect of this film, set back during World War I, was probably better than Captain America did it for World War II era. It's so enveloping, and the sets are so large, and sometimes, though I could pick out the green screen, sometimes I couldn't. This movie is just that enveloping. And then you have the cinematography, which a lot of people have been complaining the DCEU movies, they're too dark, when that really is not the problem. The problem is they're not written well, they're not fun. Wonder Woman is a fantastic example of how you can have dark cinematography, dark lighting, and have a fun, action-packed movie. Especially the last act of this film is very visually dark. There's a lot of Zack Snyder flavor going on in the 3rd act. And though I think the darkness, to a point, it takes away from what's going on, especially since you had towards the beginning of the film that very bright, vibrant beach scene on Themyscira where they're fighting the invading soldiers. I thought the darkness probably took away just a little bit, not a whole lot. But like I said, it's a great example of how you can have visually a dark film, but still have a lot of fun. And then the chemistry, oh man, the chemistry between Chris Pine, especially him and Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot is not my favorite actress. I was kind of worried because she's never really impressed me in anything. She is fantastic in this role, especially in the early years of Wonder Woman, where she's kind of a fish out of water coming to man's world for the first time. A lot of the humor that she has, and she's a very funny character, doesn't really rely on Gadot's chops, and that's a good thing. The comedy, she kind of just stumbles upon it in terms of situation. Chris Pine, however, he is as Steve Trevor, who crash lands on Themyscira and is the catalyst for what brings Wonder Woman into our world. He's so charming. I mean, he's like the Captain Kirk. You can see why he was chosen to play the charming Captain Kirk. He's funny. He's the most enjoyable, fun-loving, loyal, did I say funny already? Guy in the world. And he's probably my favorite part of this movie. The action was a little bit too slow in terms of slow motion. I thought there was a little just too much of that. Just a couple of times, not too much. Other than that, I thought the choreography was fun. The editing kind of got a little choppy, not too bad, not like you say in one of those like Taken 2 where the action is, you can't even tell what's going on. You can always tell what's going on. In terms of going back to performances for a minute, there's one character in this film, and I'll talk about him at length in the spoilers video, but he's awful. Every line he has, I was just shaking my head laughing when I'm not supposed to be. That's not a good thing. I really want to tell you more, but I can't. A lot of people have been complaining in this movie about the villain and saying how they are kind of throwaway villains or underdeveloped, kind of like you would find in a typical Marvel movie. And I'm going to say I really disagree. I really liked the villain in this movie. Again, not going to go into spoilers, though I want to. I found myself understanding why he's doing what he's doing, and that's actually something you don't get quite a bit in Marvel movies. He's less of a stereotypical villain, mustache twirler, and more of a fleshed out character. He has a reason, he believes in what he's doing. It just doesn't happen to line up with what Wonder Woman believes. And there were a couple of times where I thought, this is getting a little too cheesy, a little too hokey. And the twist at the end is so telegraphed. I saw it coming from miles away. But that really didn't take away from me enjoying the movie at all. If you're a comic book nerd, there's a moment I'm sitting there, I'm waiting to see something that I want to see from the books, and then you see it, and it's fantastic, and I went, yay, in my seat, and for about a whole minute, I was just making noises, and it was fantastic. Again, that'll be in the spoilers talk. And then there were a couple of moments of, oh, well, that's convenient. That happened just a little too much. Big advancements in plot rely on things that are way too convenient. That's a disappointment, just because a lot of the other writing is so strong in this movie. But those are nitpicks. This movie is so much fun. After 76 years, it's a shame, but it was worth the wait. I give Wonder Woman an A-. Can't wait to see the next one. You should go check it out in 3D if possible. If you liked this review, guys, click the thumbs up and subscribe. You can watch all my other movie reviews there. I do Blu-ray unboxings, trailer reactions. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying up with me. This has been another episode of Movie Minutes. Until next time, guys.